Crimson Blades by Fernando Maldonado. Prologue. Brothers. Through the labyrinth of brick and concrete they chased him, past the crowds, into the alleys, and over the rattle of chain-link fences. The boy was fast, and knew these streets as if they were corners in his home. But the other boys were quick, too. Faster and faster, their footsteps splashed down the damp alleyways after him. The brick walls echoed with their curses as they'd reach out for him, only for their quarry to slip past their fingers. The boy's pulse raced as his breath quickened when his eyes caught the gap at the other end of the alleyway leading to a bustling street. Along the road dashed a traffic of wagons and hover carts carrying goods to the marketplaces. The boy's lips curled to a grin as he dashed, hoping to cross that road and lose himself amidst the crowd. With the pale light nearing and the whirl of the engines building, salvation was close. That was when something tripped him. The boy fell fast and hard against the pavement, scraping his knees and elbows as the alley spun. Clothes were torn and tattered as he groaned and reeled. Catching his breath, he looked up and saw the light eclipsed by the hulking silhouettes of two boys who emerged from the corners. Behind him, a third boy emerged from beneath a pile of wooden crates, laughing as he dusted himself off. He was the one that gripped his ankle. Springing up, the boy's eyes darted left and right as they surrounded him. "You ain't going nowhere, Atara," said Non, the tallest among them. "Damn," Atara muttered. There were three of them, dressed in the shabby clothes of Ashan's street urchins. Their heights stretched upward like colossal statues. Hands tightened into fists as they cracked their knuckles and drew closer. Earlier that day, they had all been brothers as they picked pockets and lifted goods from the shops that they could sell. But this boy, Atara, was too headstrong for his own good. "You're gonna regret belting me, you little punk," said Raikou, a heavy-set boy with a bruise swelling on the side of his face. The alley boomed with their laughter. "Look at him," said Zaz, the lean, green-haired one that had tripped him. "Bet he's gonna start crying for his mom." "Yeah, his dead mom," said Ron. Atara's eyes fixed on Ron as his gaze hardened and he squeezed his fists. "Come on, runt," Ron continued. "Cry for her. She ain't gonna save you. No one's gonna save you." Ron sneered as he drew closer. In a flash, Atara lunged, his cry echoing between the walls, and smashed his fist straight into Ron's nose. "Little bastard!" Ron shouted, stepping back and clasping his face. "Whoa, you okay, man?" his comrades asked him. Blood seeped from his nostrils and trickled down his fingers. The boys stepped back and watched with gaping mouths. "I don't need no one to save me," said Atara, bending his knees and raising his fists. "Ya morons gonna talk or fight?" All four boys were taken aback by the kid's resilience. "Take him," said Raikou. Shaking it off, they sprang upon him. What fell upon Atara was an avalanche of punches and kicks. But the kid, he dodged every hit, blocked every strike. When he saw an opening, he hit back with a swiftness and force that belied his age and size. Zos was the first to go down. Ron followed. "How the hell does this kid move so fast?" Ron said, blood running down his nose. But whatever skill the boy had, he was still 1 against 3. It was, as he took a moment to catch his breath and laugh at his attackers, that Raikou crept up behind with a wooden beam in his hand. Atara only heard the whirling before the strike fell like a crashing lightning bolt upon the back of his head. "He's down!" said Raikou. Atara reeled as the force of the blow sent him smashing into the ground. A kaleidoscope of colors flooded his vision as the blow's shock waves reverberated through his skull. Straining to pull himself back up, a kick in the gut knocked him back down. Clasping his belly, another kick struck his face. His head throbbing, the wind knocked out of him. He covered his face as the blows fell. Try as he might, he could no longer dodge their fists as the pain exploded with each hit. "You like that, huh? Not my fun off now, are ya?" Nran shouted. Then it stopped. Something had caught hold of Nran, and his taunts turned to screams as he was hurled through the air and sent crashing into the bins at the other end of the alleyway. Zos and Raikou backed away from Atara. Finally, given a reprieve, he turned slowly as the pain swelled across his arms, sides, and face. He sluggishly opened his eyes and glimpsed the blurry form of a man clad in a red coat. "Shit! Did you see that?" said Zos. "Did you see how he tossed and ran?" "Yeah, I saw that," said Raikou. "You okay, Nran?" Nran coughed as he staggered up from the bins and torn garbage bags. He lifted his hand to show his friends that he was all right. Brushing the garbage off and wiping his bloodied nose, he limped forward until he was behind the stranger, fists raised. "I believe you boys have hurt this lad enough," the stranger said, with an odd accent. "I suggest you let him be." "Stay out of this, old man," said Raikou. "This ain't none of your business." "I choose to make it my business. Now, let him be." "Nobody tells us what to do. Take him." "Very well," the man said. Screaming, the boys rushed the stranger as Atara tried to watch with a swollen face and tear-drowned eyes. The pain anchored him where he lay. He closed his eyes tight to squeeze out the tears and opened them again to see how the stranger fared. Each time he opened his eyes, he was met by one curious sight after another. The boys punched, kicked, and lunged, only to have the man dodged and block each attack with a speed that seemed unnatural. When he struck back, he struck once, and they fell before him. Atara narrowed his eyelids until, faintly, it started to appear as though the attackers were being knocked down without the stranger touching them. His palms opened and they flew against the walls, the ground, and the trash bins. Nran and Zaz moaned and bawled upon the ground as the stranger bore over them. By all appearances, the fight was over. But behind the stranger, Raikou reared his head and raised his wooden beam over the stranger's back. Atara squeezed his fists as he tried to warn him, but a fit of coughs seized his throat. With one heavy swoop, Raikou brought the beam down. But it did not meet its target. The stranger turned with a swift motion and stopped it with little more than his finger. "What the hell?" said Raikou as the beam shook within his hands. Raikou's eyes grew wild as he gasped. The motion had loosened the stranger's red coat, revealing a sword nestled inside a leather scabbard. "Put it down," the stranger said. Raikou's breathing quickened. Screaming, the beam whirled as he swung it again and again. Each blow was parried by the stranger's finger, which moved with such speed it seemed almost as if it were vanishing and reappearing. As Raikou bellowed and swung, The stranger remained as calm and impassive as a mountain in a storm. Several strikes ensued as the stranger cried out, and, for the briefest instants, a red flame engulfed his hand. The inflamed finger smashed the wooden beam in two as the darkened alley was illuminated by the light of that crimson fire. Raikou stared at the broken beam as its other half knocked upon the ground a few feet away. Atara choked with delirium. Was this real? But the strangest occurrence was to come. The stranger opened his palms, and Raikou stiffened, dropping what remained of his weapon. Atara's heart pounded as it seemed as though Raikou were being lifted in the air without the stranger touching him. "I will say this only once more," the stranger said, his voice thundering. "Leave this boy alone." Yeah, whatever you say. Just put me down, put me down." The stranger did not answer. He motioned with his hand, and Raikou shot forward, screaming until he crashed against the bins on the other end of the alleyway. Raikou stumbled back up and fled, nearly smashing against the wall. Behind him, Nran and Zas tumbled up and followed. Atara lay still as the boy's footsteps faded away. His heart pounded within his chest as he followed the ghostly motions of the red-clad stranger, who now approached him. He was helpless before him, as if he hadn't been beat up. The stranger bent down until Atara met his crystal blue eyes. "Rest, lad," he said with a gentle cadence. "They can't hurt you now." Atara closed his eyes as his breath seeped out and all went black.